Look at how much money Ned Lamont is worth, and Tong, and
Uh-huh.
all these people that are elected officials. Blumenthal Jr., Dasham. I'd love to know how much he's worth.
Well, Murphy, and all he does is rent his mother's house in Connecticut. But, hey, he's our senator.
Yeah,
Hey.
and cheats on his wife. Welcome to Lock and Load Podcast. My name is Josh.
And I'm Michelle.
And we talk to you about Connecticut 2A issues. So today we want to do a recap of all the gun bills that either passed or didn't pass in the legislative session in 2025 in Connecticut here.
Or got kicked.
Failed. There's a lot of failed, guys.
But even if they didn't go to the floor, some of them didn't even make it to a vote.
Yeah, so a lot of these, or the ones that we're going to cover here, I believe made it to hearings. 7042, we've talked about that many times now.
It passed.
It passed. That is an anti-gun bill that passed. If you have not seen or heard us talk about 7042,
go back.
I don't know what you're doing here.
Well, go back and watch them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, especially the last video. So make sure you watch that. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. Let's talk about 7231, a pro-gun bill or pro 2A bill.
2A bill.
We'll go with pro 2A bill about hunting. Now, I did a brief podcast on it. I think it was like 5 minutes long, my little Monday morning one. But this authorizes hunting on Sundays on private property for licensed hunters with firearms, but you have to be away. You have to be 40 yards away from public trails. There's still
firearms and archery.
Yep. There's still, bird restrictions. You can hunt with 10 or more acres on your private land. This does not cover public lands, though. Talked to Keith Cagle briefly. We're going to try to get him back into the podcast to kind of go in depth into this.
He's the president of the Connecticut Sportsmen. Friends
of Connecticut Sportsmen. So we'll save more information about that for when he comes on.
This has been in the works for 15 years, guys. Yeah. So this is a bill that every single year has been proposed, and it finally passed.
So one bill we'll take a minute to talk about is going to be HB 7052. That was the increase in the magazine capacity. So there was a bill proposed to increase it from 10 rounds to 15 rounds. And it actually passed. We covered this. It passed the Public Safety Committee.
Correct. It went to the floor.
From a 16-15 vote.
Correct.
It was a 1 vote difference. And that was where Chris Poulos actually voted in favor of that, which was very surprising. There was his first pro 2A vote. And then it went to the floor, and then it got kicked back to judiciary, and judiciary did not pick it up, and it died.
They let it just sit.
So this would have allowed that. It also would have allowed any large capacity magazines to be transferred to other individuals. And I guess it also would have allowed rangers to sell ammo without having a permit, but it's dead. So we're moving on. And that concerning the duty to retreat in a house of religious worship. That was HB 7070. That's where Peter Estrada Jr. testified. It was kind of adorable, to be honest.
He did a really good job.
He did.
A kid to sit in that room with all lights and eyes on you.
Yeah.
He did a great job.
I think he was in the first like 6 people.
Yeah.
So he testified on that. Unfortunately, that bill did not make it out of committee either and died. So you can stand your ground in your home, right? That's what Castle Doctrine is. We are going to do a separate podcast on Castle Doctrine. We have had many of you ask for that. That'll probably be the next one we film, to be honest. I just got to get all my information down. But apparently, so you can do that in your home, but you can't do that in a place of worship, apparently.
Yes.
So HB 7194, an act concerning self-defense concerning transfer of large capacity magazines and assault weapons. So if they are registered assault weapons, you were able to transfer those. Died. HB 6859, an act concerning certain evidence, records, firearm information, security guards, firearm transfers, school grants. That died. HB 7137, a disqualify for carrying permits and getting permits and merchant code. So we'll break that up a little bit. So the disqualifying factors that ended up making it to 7042.
Yes. Okay.
Which we have 11 disqualifying misdemeanors in the state of Connecticut. Most of them have to do with some sort of violent act. And there was no correlation to, let's say you lived in New York and then you moved here. There was no like 1 equals 1. Didn't correlate to each other.
They went by statute number.
Yeah.
And not charge. So now Connecticut got into line where the charges now match. It doesn't matter what the statute
type,
is.
It's the kind of charge, like the violent aspect against a person is kind of what groups it into but it also changed the whole misdemeanor aspect in 7042, which is, I don't know if I can call this pro or not, but it brought it from 20 years on the misdemeanors down to 8.
Yes, they fall off after 8 years.
You assault someone in the 3rd degree, because that's one of them, and now instead of having to wait 20 years, you only have to wait 8 years.
Well, we're still a may issue state, so they can still look at suitability if they choose to. But you have more of a chance.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. I mean, if that like...
No, I do, because...
I wonder what the difference is between like 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, I guess. Like
But if you've done... Say you were young and dumb and you got into a fight, you know, and then... 8 years, 9 years later, you've grown up, you know, you haven't gotten in trouble since, you haven't done anything wrong. I'm okay with that.
Get it expunged then. Go hire a lawyer.
Yeah, but this way it just comes back to you. You haven't had any recurring issues. Why should you have to spend the extra money if you haven't
say if you had recurring issues? What if you had other charges? But that was the only disqualifier. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. It's interesting. It's interesting that Democrats want to help criminals.
Ways. Wow.
That's where my hiccup here is that we're now making the criminals not as liable, because to be convicted of that, and this is your consequence. Oh, well, now your consequence isn't so much. Does that make more sense?
I'm still where I stand. If you don't have recurring issues of being a violent offender over a span of 8 years, I think you should be allowed to exercise your rights.
Okay.
I do.
Depends what the charges.
Because they're not talking about felony charges. They're talking about like the assaults and that kind of stuff. And in Connecticut also, they charge you with assault for everything.
Yep.
So it's an immediate disqualifier when it could have not been as severe as it looks on paper. So, you know, I think I'd have more issues if it was a violent felony crime we were kind of dropping down, which, you know,
yeah.
But this kind of stuff, people get hot. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's okay, but people get hot and do stupid stuff. And if you've learned your lesson, I don't think you should be penalized for the rest of your life.
It wasn't the rest of their life. It was 20 years.
20 years is a long time.
It is.
It's a very long time.
It's 2 decades.
There's people out there that truly believe if you're convicted even of a felony and you do jail time and you get out, you should get your rights back immediately. And this is all an opinion type thing because they've done their time. Okay. I'm a little bit more conservative on that aspect because to me, if you've been convicted of a violent crime, a violent felony, you know, you made the choice to do that kind of thing. Assault, because assault is used so often, it could have just been a fist fight in a bar. Yep. People get stupid.
Yep.
I've been around it. I've watched it. Might have
possibly participated in it. Michelle has a past. Who knows?
Anyway.
That's on record.
I was never arrested and I've never been convicted of anything. But I do that. I don't. So I still stand where I stand. We'll just leave it there.
The last one was merchant codes. So that died, which was surprising, actually. That died.
In Connecticut, extremely.
So, you know, I'm thinking about this and going back to 7042. You know, there's people that say with the supermajority, they can push anything through they want.
Yes.
But they don't, right? So how many times has Gilchrist's bill been put up for an ammo tax, which there was no ammo tax bill this year? Surprising. Probably next year.
Because it's about bigger fish to fry.
But they could just do it.
Here's the deal. Okay. And again, we're going to get back into my personal opinion. I truly wish the Democrats would put everything in the kitchen sink on the table and pass it all. And everybody would be screaming out there, you know, holy crap. Oh my God. but now we'd have a real lawsuit that they couldn't wiggle out from under. They always do just enough to give them some standing so that people have to hem and haw. Is it worth a lawsuit? Isn't it worth a lawsuit? Is it worth it? Isn't it? I think 7042 is most definitely worth a lawsuit. It's just a matter of finding the right people to get involved and raising enough funds to do so. I think they pick and choose because they're also worried about their jobs, Josh. If they actually put everything in the kitchen sink into these bills and passed everything they wanted, I think several of them would lose seats. If they do just enough, they can justify it. And that way it gives them something to do next year.
Speaking at CCDL's meeting in June, and you don't know this because I just didn't tell you.
No, I wasn't there.
There was an update on Grant v. Lamont. I guess it was a good update.
Okay.
So I guess there's preliminary hearings, something happening. I'm not a lawyer, guys. Probably using the wrong words there. I'm sure somebody will comment on it.
Was it granted certiorari?
No. It's the hearing is starting to roll in New Haven Superior Court. So, which is a good thing. So Holly explained that it's all about timing. And I think without saying the quiet part out loud, at least during the meeting, that they're expected to lose this, right? We're expected to lose Grant v. Lamont in Connecticut. To then go federal and get the Second Circuit Court of Appeal, and then hopefully maybe get to the Supreme Court.
Correct.
They were talking a lot about money and fundraising, and that Shoe versus Malloy cost $1 million back then. Nothing's cheaper now. So I expect you guys are going to see a lot of fundraising push from CCDL over the next year, maybe year and a half. So just to be aware of that. I would absolutely love to get Eddie Grant on here. And as soon as this lawsuit is over, Eddie has promised he will come on.
Yeah, he's right now is not able to legally because he's the plaintiff.
Eddie has been advised by his lawyers not to do this kind of, not just like our podcast, right? Just any kind of speaking like this, because I guess they probably could be used against him, especially knowing Eddie.
Correct. I mean, he posts a lot of stuff on his Facebook page and he's very outspoken if you speak to him. But I think having things recorded, and I understand that as a plaintiff in a lawsuit, especially like this, they probably want to keep him where the other side can't start putting up videos. Hey, look what he said. Hey, look what happened here. Look what this is. So I get that. I hope that it goes someplace. I will say that I had a lot more hope for it maybe about a year ago, but now with Maryland's being kicked out, Rhode Island is still iffy, and so Delaware got kicked, I believe.
Yeah, so I don't remember the states, but there were two that were up at the Supreme Court. They kept getting kicked down the road. They finally got kicked out.
Yeah, they finally got declined.
One was Maryland.
Maryland,
and then Ocean State. Was that Maryland's or was that another one?
No, that's Rhode Island.
Okay. So two of them that were up at the Supreme Court or could have been heard by the Supreme Court got kicked.
But there's another one still swirling about assault weapon.
Yeah, well, there's a few out there.
So, including
it was pretty disappointing. That it was a big failure on the Supreme Court justices. We'll see what happens in the next year because I don't think there's nothing waiting for cert right now that's like that. So I think 2025 season of trying to get assault weapon backs nationwide is dead. We'll try again in 2026. Well, they only hear so many cases, and that's why they kept kicking it down the road, and why kick it down the road? Why not just, boom, done.
Well, and it's one of those for me. Yes, I want it to go. I want one of these cases to go to Supreme Court. But in the same token that I say I want it to go to the Supreme Court, I'm very nervous because what if
they roll the wrong way?
Yes. And you never know. I mean, I am happy SCOTUS did kick out Mexico being able to sue the gun manufacturers.
Yeah, Smith & Wesson.
Giving them to cartel, which is BS.
Using PLACA, which HB 7042 is a direct slap in the face to PLACA.
Yep. So, I mean, there's hope there on a federal level that they're going to go, no. But I always worry. I mean, granted, it's already gone for us right now. Yes, it can come back. But I guess if they ruled the wrong way and made it a final no, I think that would just be like,
Or it's a nail in a coffin and
right,
there's consequences.
right.
Who knows?
Well, with what's going on right now
I
in the
think
country,
midterms are going to be interesting when it comes that way.
I really freaking hope so.
Well, I hope it goes our way.
Midterms, I will be flabbergasted if we don't gain a couple of seats, because if that's the case, I'm not sure. I think the rest of Connecticut are zombies if they continue to elect the same people who are being detrimental, not just in 2A, guys, across the board. I mean, and the stuff that they're putting up on Facebook and on the news, the things that they're saying in the news, and having Tong jump up and down about these riots and egg people on.
If you guys haven't seen Tong, he has a TikTok, and it's the most cringy thing out there.
He was on the news jumping up and down at the protests.
It's so like out of touch to the general people. Like, you're catering to the 1%, right? And you hate the other 1%, but you're catering to this other 1% because they're loud and obnoxious, and you're catering to them when the other 90% of people just like don't want to be bothered, right? And it's just,
well, when we're catering to illegals in this state, period. And I mean, and I'll say it, we're going to get off the 2A thing for a minute. I will say it straight up. That's what these elected officials are doing. Hence why when we get to midterms, if things don't change, then I have lost all hope for Connecticut.
I think what they're trying to do is slap the federal government in the face so bad that the federal government stops funding, and then they use that as a tactic to go after Trump or other Republicans or other people.
But all it does is cost
and all it does citizens. Is hurt. Yeah, all it does is hurt us. All it does is infringe on our rights. All it does is hurt your wallet. And
but nobody sees
they
that.
Don't care because they're part of the 1% that they supposedly hate.
Orange
right?
Man bad. He took our funding away. It had nothing to do with the laws we just passed.
Look at how much money Ned Lamont is worth, and Tong. And all these people that are elected officials. Blumenthal Jr., Staffsham. I'd love to know how much he's worth.
And all he does is rent his mother's house in Connecticut. But, hey, he's our senator. Yay.
Yeah, and cheats on his wife.
I don't care what they do on their own time. I truly don't. I care about how you represent. And I'm not represented down in D.C. No. You're not represented down in D.C. Most of us are not represented down in D.C., just so we know. We have no voice.
Not in Connecticut.
Not on a federal level.
But we'll be having a guest come on, definitely after this podcast, that is going to try to flip the 5th district. So stay tuned for that one. And we will I think there's one going after Delora too.
Yeah.
There's Delora we were talking about.
Yeah.
So we'll see who we get on this summer to talk to you guys and get you guys a little informed. Now, this is important. This is not this November election. This November election, if you didn't watch our previous video, is for your local government. This is a municipal election.
Which
so this
is important.
Correct. It's not a state level though. It's very important to how your tax dollars are spent in your town and your mill rate.
Well, and getting the right people, because they go up the line and they end up being up in Hartford as your representatives or your senators.
Yep.
So if you elect crappy people or don't care who's being elected in your town, that's what you're going to have later.
Yep. So obviously pay attention to that. We are probably not going to cover any of that. We both live in different towns. And
I'm not covering
you guys
all of them.
Are all over the place, so can't really do that. I, on my personal Facebook page, will probably have some sort of opinion about Southington people as I live here. But the people that we're getting on, they will be in the 2026 November election cycle, and hopefully get Johanna Hayes out of there. The first time Logan ran against her, almost had her.
Yeah.
Second time, not as much. The guy we have on, his name's Jonathan. It'll be an interesting podcast. I've talked to him once in person, and we'll see where he stands, guys. It'll be kind of our first interview, not really knowing the person. So
yeah, not having a clue, because I don't know him from a hole in the wall.
And I just heard him speak at CCDL one day, and I was like, hey, you want to come on the podcast? And we're scheduled now. So that may come out right after this video. It may be a week, maybe 2, who knows? But he will be on here, guys. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that little bell that's down there somewhere. And or Facebook, Instagram, Amazon, Alexa, Spotify, wherever the hell you guys are watching this.
Are we still on Rumble?
No,
anymore?
we haven't done Rumble in a while. YouTube's been okay, so just kind of been focusing on that. And Facebook, we got a good amount of analytics. YouTube Shorts, hit the little thumbs up, guys. Keep sharing us. The bigger we get, the more subscribers we get, the more people we will get on here for guests. The more interesting people will get on here for guests.
The more information we'll have for you, because the more guests we have, the more they bring information for you. So that helps everybody involved.
So my name is Josh.
And I'm Michelle.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Lock and Load Podcast is sponsored by Lock and Load Firearms, Connecticut's #1 rated gun store and pistol permit class on Google. Come check us out, 1573 Meriden Waterbury Turnpike in Southington. Lock and Load Firearms.
Lock and Load Podcast is also sponsored by Patriot Wear Holsters, custom-made Kydex holsters locally made in Waterbury, Connecticut. www.patriotwearholster.com and use code LNL Podcast for 10% off your purchase. Orders available for shipping or pickup at various locations.